Welcome back on the AM show. Yes, we wish our black stars the very best. Go, go, go. But even as we wish them the very best, let's come back home and deal with the issues we have to. I'm sharing with you my first blunt thoughts for the year 2024. And I've titled it, The Mirage of Political Leadership and the Sinking Sand of Our Hope. Ghana, the mirage of our leadership, our political leadership, and the sinking sand of our hope. Now, we can't allow poverty, underdevelopment, to be Africa's narrative. I'm not the one saying that. Mr. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo said it recently. That was a headline recently when the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo emphasized the need to redefine Africa's narrative, steering it away from the shadows of poverty and underdevelopment. But I ask, what have you, Mr. President, done in 7 years to not make it our narrative? A child born when he became president would have attained the age of reason or wisdom. That is age 7 by now. Such a child, per Christian theology, with scientific backing, would have come to understand and distinguish between right and wrong. Yet I do not know whether your entire administration has learned that simple lesson as yet. Sad. Truly sad. Wrong is constantly made right under your administration. So I'm going to focus briefly on a point here before I proceed. Apart from what Mr. President said about development in Africa, he also recently said this: we must help make Africa the place for investment, progress, and prosperity, and not from where our youth flee in the hope of accessing the mirage of a better life in Europe or the Americas. And then there was a quick response. One divine Ankama Amicus, he got me laughing. He said, and I'm not quoting everything he said, but among other things, he said, the mirage is where you go for medical treatment. The mirage of Amanone is where you go to beg for money. The mirage, in fact, is where you go on vacation. Interestingly, Mr. President, he says our youth are going after a mirage in these countries. Tell that to my doctor, nurse, pharmacist, accountant, teacher, and pharmacist friends who are leaving in droves. Recently, a friend of mine, a very brainy woman, whom I shall give the name Lady D, told me of her entire family, including her twin sister, who is now in Canada. She's pregnant currently and says once she delivers the baby, she's also heading there to join them. Her mother is there, her sister is there, another sister is there. She is joining them after giving birth. A whole full-blooded Ghanaian family is leaving because of the hardship. When our president speaks of a mirage, I laugh. Mr. President, if you stop going out there with cap in hand to beg, even as you talk of your mirage-like Ghana Beyond AIDS slogan, if you start doing all your medical checkups in Ghana, spending your vacations in Ghana, encouraging and maybe compelling all your appointees and cronies in office to save their resources in our local banks so you all can also feel the pinch of everything the rest of us feel, then we can have that discussion. Until such a time, Mr. President, your sentiments will remain no more than a pipe dream. The youth of Ghana, that vibrant, energetic, teeming mass of our future, will continue to leave to seek greener pastures because over here, in many ways and places, there is no grass in the first place to talk of its being greener. Someone is offering an astroturf economy. You are here offering us a Sakura Park with lots of stones and bumps, and you expect these ambitious young ones to simply choose your draconian taxes, which you keep adding onto every day when you and your officials live in opulence, while many of the masses cannot even get a good meal per day? Is this some sort of dislocated reality? Because I simply don't get it. If these countries are the mirage you claim they are, then you honestly shouldn't be bothered. Let them go there and be the judges of the mirage for themselves. But you know what's interesting nowadays? I'm hearing lots of people who have traveled to the West, especially in conversations with me personally, or with others sounding like me, come back to Ghana, never. It will take a very long time, even if I decided to come back. I've heard young people's family members tell them, don't you dare come back. If you come back here into this mess, we'll disown you. Can you stop for a second, Mr. President, members of this administration, and think about that? Are you living and seeing our reality, or are you living in the bubble of some alternate reality? Mr. President, respectfully, wake up. Young people are suffering. The economy is so bad, many young people are even struggling to take the next step of marriage in their relationships owing to the high cost of everything. The list, no, they can't. To make matters worse, you keep adding new taxes. Now there's the vehicle income tax for owners of cars performing ride-hailing services. Can you imagine what that would do to the cost of transportation? But it gets worse. On the back of COP28, your government has also introduced a very opportunistic emissions levy. 100 Ghana cedis annually on diesel and petrol vehicles. In simple terms, all vehicles, unless they use gas, I suppose. Instead of fighting the stinking, choking, wrecking ball of corruption, which has come to symbolize your administration like a cloak of ignominy worn in a walk of shame, you are rather attacking the problem from the leaves when the roots are where you should be laying your axe, assuming you even have one, morally speaking, Mr. President. This is why I laughed recently when I saw your letter directing the KPMG to look into already determined areas of the SML contract with the Finance Ministry and the GRA, which has raised a lot of eyebrows on the grounds of due process, personal gain, a mere duplication of work, or if you like, payments for absolutely no work done and barefaced corruption. So, let me now go back to my slides, briefly. In terms of this SML contract, the Ministry of Finance has refused to grant access to the contract based on sections 11 subsection 1B and C of the RTI Act. They will always find something to tell you. That is to the fourth estate. They admit not having reports of revenue losses from agencies in charge of the sectors involved. They admit it. They also say engagement with all service providers in the revenue sector, including SML, are informed and underpinned by government's policies. Which policies? The Ministry of Finance directed the fourth estate to the GRA for more information concerning the contract. And guess what? The GRA also threw away the fourth estate. Now, Occupy Ghana, ignore the IPP dead bit, we are not there yet. Occupy Ghana has called on government to allow the Auditor General to audit the GRA and the SML contracts. They want government to revoke the appointment of a private audit firm, KPMG, to conduct the audit and adhere to Article 187 on the matter. This will give the Auditor General the power to disallow payments found to be contrary to the law and then to surcharge. It gets even more murky. According to the fourth estate, which brought the SML deal to bear, now quoting them, their interactions with the GRA, staff of the GRA, this discrepancy raises pertinent questions about the substantial payments made to SML, especially considering that their data does not contribute to the informed decision-making process in revenue collection. Despite this, SML has received gross payments between 700 and 750 million Ghana cedis thus far. Now, the GRA's Samuel Arthur admitted to them that SML's meters were not used for revenue calculation when he was asked during the investigation which meters the GRA used for revenue purposes. Again, quoting them, "It has been the way bill figures, which is the volume that is being dispensed from the meters, that is the gantry meters." And that was what, again, the GRA staff member said. So if for nothing at all, are you not in the know, Mr. President, that KPMG has the GRA as a client? KPMG itself has admitted to auditing for the GRA. So I ask, respectfully, how on earth can you ask them, knowing the conflict of interest you are pushing them into, to do a thing like this, when one of their biggest clients, the GRA, is in this soup? How will any objective person take such a report seriously? Mind you, I have friends at KPMG. I am not in any way demeaning their work, not at all. But just as a judge with some interest in a matter would want to quietly recuse himself or herself from it, so I'm assuming you should have known better not to place this auditing firm in such a tight corner. But hey, it has happened. Why am I not surprised? Nothing done under your administration surprises me anymore. Absolutely nothing. You have hit the heights of so many negatives that I can only see things nowadays and roll my eyes like a cat. After all, waiting man no see before. At the end of this, yet another clearing will happen, I suppose, and everyone will be happy. Apart from the suffering masses, that is. We, the people, can clearly read between the lines, Mr. President. Those who choose not to see, hear, or speak any evil of your administration will remain speechless, but not for us. For the cost of silence will be much more than we could ever bear. It would be the silence of collaborators who spoke not when Amagana was stripped naked and cast out into the darkness of the forest where wild animals roamed free. There would be no difference. No. We shall speak up. Enough is enough. This charade, this circus cannot continue. Things must be done differently. If not, doom and gloom are not far off. Call me a doomsday prophet. You'd have to be blind not to see the writing on the wall. But turning my gaze back to the supposed mirage of going to Amanone or Abrochire, Mr. President, this same KPMG conducted a survey in Africa recently which revealed that in Ghana, Ghanaians turned to savings in foreign currency to protect their investments. The same currencies from Amanone are preferred to our cedi, the value of which we all know. It had been at a point the worst performing currency in the world under your watch, and just last year, even with an IMF program, lost a whopping 22.5% of its value to the American dollar, 24.9% to the British pound, and 22.8% to the euro. Yeah, even in terms of money, people prefer to invest in the ones from the places where these mirages are. In the meantime, we're also in the grips of an energy or electricity flux, and that's how I'll end. Let's go to the board once more. In recent times, we've been told that actually we've expected to shut off 700 megawatts of our electricity consumption or supply. And in actuality, we've only had to shut off about 500 megawatts. But what are the other details? Next slide. If you look at our energy consumption peak hours, you will find out that these three regions are in the mix mainly, of course, the Greater Accra region as well. But Ashanti alone, 300 plus megawatts at peak hours. Central, 100 plus megawatts. And in the Volta region, you'd be looking at between 80 and 100 megawatts. Next slide. But then you also consider the mitigation plan and how it affects our neighbors. Because yes, we claimed we had excess supply or excess capacity in the past. We don't have that anymore. So we've been supplying as well to other countries. We cut off 50 megawatts to the Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire, to Togo and Benin, 100 megawatts, to Burkina Faso, 50 megawatts. You know, we joke matter. Next slide. And in terms of cutting the power, some of what we've been told about the challenges we are facing, apart from the recent WAPCO one and gas supply and not getting paid, and now we know that some payments have been made, why did we have to wait and let people go through all of that? The TAPCO, Takoradi 1, power loss 330 megawatts. Do you realize what this means? How many parts of the country this could power? And the claim under maintenance, TICO 1, 110 megawatts, 40 turbines, Akosombo, 170 megawatts, transformer issues. Wahala day. Wahala day. So this is the tail of the tape. This is basically where we are. To conclude, Danafo, I would just like to say this. When we lay bare some of these issues, okay, we're bringing them to bear because we must know what exactly is going on with us. With this mess that we are seeing in many forms, how can we then look back and act as though everything were right, in order? That is what I dislike. Let us own up when things are wrong. Who knows? The people might understand. But like with this energy situation, with the SML situation, when you just throw it out there and make it seem we are bereft of our senses, then you bring some of us to ire, anger. This is not a time for mollycoddling. It's an electoral year. So as we look through all these fine lines, let us also listen critically to the politicians when they speak and winnow, sift the wheat from the chaff. Because this is also when deception will come to the fore. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I hope I've informed you this morning. And I hope I've opened your heart to some understanding. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, unedited, and undiluted. As always, I pray that God will bless Ghana and make our motherland great and strong.